Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through my curly inks for the month of November. Unfortunately, this month is kind of a blur for me. I don't remember writing very much, and I definitely didn't draw at all with these pens. But somehow, some of these pens I managed to write dry. Like I said, this month was kind of a blur. But I have 11 pens inked, and I am going to go through each of them and give some of my thoughts on them. The first pen that we have is the TWSBI Diamond 580 in Rose Gold. This is a stub nib. So, TWSBI. Make sure I'm in front of here. Zoom in a little bit. TWSBI. Diamond. And this was a 1.1. I'm putting that in parentheses because I did work to make it a little bit thinner. For me, this 1.1 with this Anderillium Bobtail Squid ink, this ink was pretty watery, and the line was just a little bit too thick for me, so I just shaved it down a little bit. I'm probably going to shave it down a little bit more just to make it a kind of a mini stub, and I'll show you here in my curly ink tracker how it looked normally. So this is it before. That's how thick it was. And now I have it down to that. So I'm preferring this a little bit more than it was originally, but I just wanted to be a little bit thinner for me. I'm not really that much of a stub fan, but I did enjoy the stub in my Penlux last month. And that's the Anderillium, kind of a very watery ink. And up next we have the Majohn X1, which I've shown a couple of times on the channel. So retractable. Majohn, this is one of my favorite pens. This is an extra fine, of course, a steel. And this is a knockoff of a Mont Blanc Bohème. And it's inked with Dryden Black, just a cartridge. So if you haven't seen before, there's the retract it, unscrew it, and there's the cartridge there. And this pen has gone through, some stresses. This resin is not great, so as I said before in my videos, I had to super glue that there. I don't think this pen is going to last. I'd give it maybe a couple years. I had to super glue it there because it was the ink was getting through, seeping through. But some fractures here and there on the resin. But I do love the way this pen writes, and I have the black version. But this one seems to write just a tad bit better than the black version. That's Majohn X1. Next we have the Lamy 2000. This is in stainless steel. And see I had this little piece of rubber from like I guess it was maybe a Sharpie gel pen or something from the grip. Because this pen is both heavy and it's slippery. So I put this here just to give myself a little grip. So this is the Lamy 2000. Stainless steel. This is an extra fine 14 karat. This is ink with the Diamond Music Series handle. A nice rosy, reddish, pinkish. I did like this ink in this pen. I think they worked very well. It's just the only challenge is to, I can't really write with this pen without something there. And so instead of just not using the pen, you know, just kind of tossing it aside and not using it, I do this, and I've done this for a couple of pens that I find the section is a little bit too slippery for me. But otherwise, it's a beautiful stainless steel pen. It is prone to a little scratching here or there, so I don't like to knock it around in my case. And I just keep that there. But that's a Lamy 2000 stainless steel. I do prefer the black macro line. It's just a little bit more comfortable for me to write with. Next, we have the Asvine J16. This is a piston filler. Beautiful pen. I have, this one is medium, and I have the extra fine as well. This is a medium steel, and this is a YOLO steel nib. And this is inked with Anderillium Flapjack Orange, which is typically not my style of ink, but I love this ink because I used it a lot during Inktober, and although it's a pretty transparent, pretty watery ink in the bottle, when you actually use it, it comes out pretty opaque, which I enjoy, and I actually use it quite a bit. I actually used it quite a bit during Inktober, and I showed this before, but I'm just kind of impressed at how this ink goes down. Again, it's very watery in the bottle, and I used a paintbrush to paint this on, but you can see there it's very opaque on paper. And same thing with the pumpkin. So I love that orange, and I think it goes good in this pen. And a couple of people have asked me how I do my little swatches here. I actually do it this way. I won't say because I'm lazy, just because it's kind of inconvenient to go and get 10 to 11 bottles and swatch them. So the ink is in the pen, so all I do is I draw a very light line here, and I just make these lines pretty light on the right, and then show how it looks when it's really saturated and dark on the left side. And I think for me, it gives me a little bit more information on how it looks in the pen, how it looks on the paper, instead of just doing a swatch. Now for my ink journals, I do the regular swatches because they're just prettier. But for this, I just do kind of a rudimentary technique here. And I may take a cotton swab just to see how waterproof or not it is. So that's all that is. And for the circle, what I do for the circle is I draw in half of the circle the ink, and of course I forgot my cotton swab, and for the other half I just wet a cotton swab again to see how waterproof or not the ink is. I'm doing it kind of fast now, but I try to do it a little neat when I'm doing it. So it's really nothing fancy. It may look pretty on the paper, but it's really just my lazy way of showing the ink. And I'll go over it a couple times to make this side really saturated and dark. And yeah, I don't have a cotton swab, but basically I'll wet it and just make a circle. Actually, I'm gonna get the swab. This, this shows me how the ink behaves in the pen. So for this one, you see, quite a bit of lines. Whereas with some pens, it just goes down super smooth. You don't see any lines or anything. It just looks like you swatched it. So it's just a wet Q-tip. And this just gives me an idea of how waterproof this ink is, how well it blends. So I can determine if this is a good ink to draw with. So that's my swatching technique for my currently inked. Again, for my journals, I do the regular thing. I took some cues from Karina. Started using the Ziploc bag, which I like that effect. But for this, it's just kind of quick and dirty. So next pen is the Delta Duna. And this is the Regal Skies, beautiful piston filler with nice ink window. And for some reason, this pen skips for some reason. But when it writes, it's beautiful. But it will skip every now and then. These ink blobs are courtesy of the Pider. Of course, the Pider would give me some trouble. This is a fine steel nib. A lot of Anderillium ink this month. This is Anderillium Cuttlefish Brown. Nice and reverse. So this pen reminds me a little bit of my Hardy Penwrights pen. My diamond copper line. And unfortunately, the viewer told me last month that Mr. Hardy passed away. And I went and read a little bit and saw that he passed away on October 26th. So condolences to his family. Definitely a loss to the fountain pen community. I did meet him at the Baltimore Pen Show. Great man. So rest in peace, Mr. Hardy. And I did have a little video early in my fountain pen journey on my Hardy pen. So if you want to go and check out that, I have a Hardy Penwrights. All three are 10T Travelers. So I have this one in Diamond Copper line. I have one in Primary Manipulation and the other in Bohemian Twilight. The Bohemian Twilight was the one that I bought from him at the Baltimore Pen Show. So next we have a recent purchase that I added into, that's why I have 11 pens. I added this to the rotation this month. This is a vintage pen. This is a Sheaffer Imperial. I bought this on eBay. And I think this is a medium. It doesn't say on the nib. Firm nib. I'm a sucker for the inlaid nibs. I was able to get this pretty cheap because the seller had kind of a cryptic message in the listing saying that there was some leaking somewhere, and based on what I can make of it, he was probably, or she was probably talking about the converter, and luckily I had a Sheaffer converter lying around, so that's probably the issue because there hasn't been any issues with leaking. But the one thing that you see on this nib is that there's a bend to it. I don't know if someone dropped it. But the thing is that it writes really well. So apparently there's still contact with the feed. So there's no issues there. But there's definitely a bend in that nib. Kind of an upturn. But beautiful pen. And it's inked with Private Reserve Sherwood Green Fast Dry. Has that beautiful red sheen that I love. Next pen, I started out the month really enjoying this pen, but then it kind of let me down at the end. I think the issue was that I was getting some paper particles mixed up in the feed. In the feed and in the nib, in between the tines, and it just didn't want to write anymore. But this is the Sailor Pro Gear Slim Majohn. I think it's 16 leaves or something like that. This is a medium fine, 14 karat, and it's doing well now. What I had to do was I was wrestling with it at work, and I just took it to the restroom and just cleaned it out. And I did have some Aurora Borealis on my desk, so I inked it with that. It started out with Birmingham Pen Company. Oh, no, it didn't. It was Anderillium dark green, but I had some Aurora Borealis on my desk, so I used that, and it's been working now. It was a combination of low ink. Somehow I did manage to write this dry, although I don't feel like I wrote very much this month, but I did manage to write this dry. And plus there was a bunch of, paper all in the tines. Because, these sailors run kind of fine, and they do have that kind of a scratchy feedback that I'm sure kind of digs into the paper a little bit. I just need to have maybe a softer hand. But this is a beautiful sailor. I don't have very many sailors, compared to the other pens in my collection, but I did buy 2 sailors recently that's kind of gravitated me towards sailors a little bit more. I think I'll do, my next video will be a review of those 2 pens, but I enjoyed this pen. I was getting a little worried when it kept drying on me, but it's fine now. Next is my Lamy Dialog CC, which I've showed quite a bit on this channel. Nice pen, but it does have some flaws. So Lamy Dialog CC. And what I did was I was having, not issues, but I wasn't really happy with the line width of this one. For me, the medium was just too thick. And I was going back and forth. I actually had this on eBay for a minute. Then I took it off. And then I was researching, buying a new nib. And I just decided, why not, before you do all that, why not just grind it down to your liking? Just take your time. I'm not a nib grinder, expert by any means. But, so that's what I decided to do. I just took it step by step, and I got it to exactly where I like it. So I'm writing with this much more. I find this very comfortable to write with. No curves or anything, but this roll stop here is a perfect place for me to land my hand. There's the nib, my little grinding. So some of the flaws, this does not seal very well at all. You see some ink there. Like I said, it doesn't seal properly at all. And this did stain my case this month. And whenever I clean it, it's always dirty inside. So there's leakage, and there's that door that does not close. Or it may close properly. Sometimes it closes properly, sometimes it doesn't. But overall, there's just not a good seal there. So it will dry out every now and then, and it'll hard start. But once it gets going, it's fine. So for this, I just take the good with the bad. So fortunately right now, there's more good than bad. And it's inked with Taccia sabimidori, which I just love the combination. Again, another ink with red sheen, another blue ink with red sheen. A little bit of, tiny bit of red sheen. And that, I think this pen actually, the sailor actually had a little bit of the Anderillium left over, because I don't think I was able to clean it as well as I would like. So the last three. So we have the Kaweco original, 250. This is the one with the bigger nib. This pen behaved very well. It always does. Has really nice pencil-like feedback. And 250 just refers to the bigger nib. There's a version with a size 5 nib. This is a 6. It's a fine steel nib. And you can hear that feedback probably. Firm nib. But just a beautiful writer. This is inked with Birmingham Penco, Pennsylvania Slate. I was trying to switch up my ink choices, so I did pretty good there, but then I kind of reverted back to my normal blues and greens. But I'm trying. So that was a good experience. Pider. This is a Pider Alchemist from Bowley. So the thing about this pen, as I mentioned before in previous video on Piniders, I had to do a lot of work to the nib. The nib is actually pretty good now. But this pen does dry out because if I take water, if I pour some water in here, it will drip just under the clip. So it's not sealed here at the clip. There's some space there for water to get through, and as such, air to get through. And then there were some issues with the converter leaking. That's why you have these dots here. So there's tape here. So I may have to get another converter. I'm not sure what the issue is, but it does seem to be holding pretty well now. It was a mess there for a minute. But beautiful pen. It's just Pider. So Pider, see how nicely it writes? Pider Alchemist. Stromboli. And it is a fine, but because I had to do so much work on it, I think I ended up grinding it to a medium, which is fine. I mean, it writes beautiful. Very wet. And so my only issue with this right now is, like I said, the converter and a little drying. But you know, the drying's no big deal. The hard start, once it gets going, it's fine. But my main issue right now is to get the converter issue taken care of. But beautiful pen. Like all Piniders are pretty much beautiful to me, but can be a little finicky, to say the least. So last but not least, so this pen was like, gosh, I think this was close to $300. This pen was less than $30, I think, maybe $35. And just flawless, absolutely flawless. So this is the Majohn A1. This is a fine steel nib. And this ink, I absolutely love this ink. This is a Birmingham Pen Company Seized Gearbox. And I just think this is like a perfect match. Kind of matches the gold of the pen. And I saw this pen, I have a few other A1s. And I admit that I ignored this. It's black and gold because, you know, black and gold, I have a lot of palettes with black and gold trim, but I saw this on Faith and Fountain Pens channel and I was like, wow, that is gorgeous. That is a gorgeous version of the A1. So it took me maybe a month or so to get it, but yeah, this is a gorgeous version of the A1. And I just love the Birmingham Pen Company ink in here. See, it does blend a little bit with water. It's not waterproof. This would be a good ink to draw with. And I think the Anderillium, the green one, is a good ink to draw with as well. It's not very good to write with. So let me show you the inks again, close. That's the Anderillium Bobtail Squid Green. Nice ink, just very watery. And that's the TWSBI. Drawing just a basic black cartridge. Diamond handle, very beautiful. This is a dry ink, so I think I added a little bit of the Fountain Pen Revolution Railroad solution to it to make it a little wetter. It's so nice in that Lamy 2000. And Anderillium Flapjack Orange. Surprising ink to me. I'm surprised that I enjoy that so much. Delta Duna with the Anderillium Cuttlefish Brown. Very good pen aside from some of the skipping and hard starts. I'll try to figure that out. Private Reserve Sherwood Green Fast Dry, one of my favorite greens. That little red sheen in the Sheaffer Imperial. Sailor Pro Gear Slim Manual. Medium Fine. Diamond Aurora Borealis. And maybe a little Anderillium Dark Green. And a beautiful Taccia sabimidori and the Lamy Dialog CC. There is some sheening going on. I don't know if it's going to show up there, but there's some beautiful rich sheen. Love that combination. Really, I love sabimidori in pretty much any pen. So another beautiful blue. Kaweco Original with the Birmingham Pen Company Pennsylvania Slate. Very nice ink. Another nice ink, we have Private Reserve Ebony Purple. I think it may be actually Ebony Violet. Very dark purple. And this is in the Pider Alchemist, which is more of a medium nib now, not fine. And look at that Seized Gearbox. Kind of a brownish, goldish, yellowish. Beautiful ink. And the Majohn A1. Just love that. I just love that nib on that A1. It's a good journaling pen. And this is Anderillium paper. Just a little bit of ghosting, a little bleed through here. Didn't work on my French transcriptions this month, but I did kind of start a journal when I provide my thoughts on the different pens. So I just write up a little blurb on how it is to write with them. So there it is with this Pro Gear Slim with the dark oyster squid, and then started to have some issues, so I cleaned it up. It's a little dry, but I think it's all settled now. Sheaffer Imperial. And this is one of those cheap pen and gear notebooks from Walmart, which work really well with fountain pens. You can see there's no bleed through or anything, even on this thick medium here. Thick wet medium, there's no bleed through. And there's the beautiful Asvine J16 with the flapjack orange. The heart there. Pider looks good. Yeah, it looks good. And the Majohn X1. So I love this pen. I just said it's a copy of the Bohem, but different enough not to make me feel guilty. Pen feels good in both hands. And there's the A1. I said that one was the best, and that probably was my favorite pen to write with for the month. And the Delta Duna. This was very nice as well. But you can see there, it's it'll skip every now and then. And I just said the pen color reminds me of my Hardy pen writes. Rest in peace, Mr. Gregory Hardy. And the Kaweco. I did say I would like to see a girthier option from Kaweco for this pen. That'd be nice. Just a little fatter. And the Lamy Dialog CC. The Taccia sabimidori is beautiful. And I said this is a very nice pen, but this is definitely one of those try before you buy, especially considering the price. There's the thing with the grip, and there's the thing with the seal. And that's it for the month. And I don't have any roller balls or any other extras to show this month. It was kind of a quiet month. Like I said, it just kind of flew by in a kind of a blur for me. I'm just going to put this here in the center in remembrance of Mr. Hardy. Again, rest in peace. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join me today. Hope this video was helpful or entertaining at least. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.